I walked in on my husband moaning my sister's name in our bed, on our anniversary. My blood went cold. But I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I smiled. Because in that moment I realized something. If they thought betrayal would break me, they clearly forgot who built them up in the first place. By the time I was done, he had no home, no money, and no one left to lie to. And my sister? Let's just say, she'll never wear white again. This is how I took everything, piece by piece. Let me start by saying this. Betrayal doesn't always come from enemies. Sometimes, the knife in your back is held by the person you once held closest to your heart. My name is Emma. I'm 29, married, or rather was married, for 5 years to the man I thought would be my forever, Jason. He was charming, successful, and loved by everyone. And then there was my little sister, Lily. Bright, beautiful, reckless. She always wanted what I had. I just never thought she'd want him too. I thought I was living the dream. Jason and I owned a cozy home in the suburbs, had stable jobs, weekend brunches, long road trips. Instagram perfect on the outside. But beneath that glossy surface, tiny cracks were forming. I just didn't know how deep they ran. Or how far Lily would go to ruin what I had. This story isn't about heartbreak. It's about reclaiming your power. When I found out the truth, that the man I loved and the sister I trusted were sneaking around behind my back, I didn't fall apart. I made a plan. Because if they were bold enough to betray me, I was going to be bold enough to destroy everything they built on top of my pain. This is how I took back my life. And how I made sure they lost everything. Jason and I met in college. One of those whirlwind campus romances that everyone swore wouldn't last beyond graduation. But we did. We moved into a one-bedroom apartment after college, splitting rent, eating ramen, and dreaming big. He wanted to run his own real estate firm, and I wanted to open a small interior design studio. We built everything from scratch. Every piece of furniture, every client, every dollar. It all came from late nights, early mornings, and a belief that we were better together. By the time we were 27, we had made it. Jason's real estate business was finally profitable, and I had just signed my first long-term design contract with a local boutique hotel. We bought our first house, a sweet little 2-story with a backyard and the exact kind of kitchen I'd always dreamed of. Life felt full, busy but full. Enter Lily. Lily is 5 years younger than me, always had a flair for drama and chaos. The golden child growing up. She got away with everything: parties, failed classes, impulsive moves. My parents would call me to fix her messes, and I always did because she was my little sister. I loved her. Even when she was a pain. Especially then. She moved to our city during her finding herself phase. New city, new job, new breakup. Jason was the one who suggested she stay with us until she got on her feet. She's family, he said. She needs us. I didn't even hesitate. I made up the guest room, stocked her favorite snacks, and helped her write her resume. I even drove her to job interviews. I didn't see the way she looked at Jason at the dinner table. Or the way he started dressing a little sharper, smiling a little too wide when she complimented him. I was busy, focused on work, on growing our future. I trusted them. At first, it was innocent, or so I thought. They'd joke, laugh a little too long, exchange glances I chalked up to sibling-like banter. I'd come home from late meetings and find them watching Netflix together. I wasn't suspicious. I was tired. She eventually found a job, ironically as a receptionist at a high-end real estate firm. Jason helped her get the interview. He was mentoring her. She looked up to him. He's like the big brother I never had, she once told me with a laugh. I laughed too. I should have known. Looking back, there were signs. So many signs. Like the time I planned a romantic weekend for Jason and me, and he claimed he had to stay back for a last-minute client. I went alone. 2 days later, Lily posted a blurry photo of a wine glass on Instagram. Same brand I had bought for our getaway. Same vineyard. I asked her about it and she brushed it off. Oh, I grabbed a drink with a coworker. Total coincidence. And I believed her. Because you don't question your sister. You don't suspect your husband. Not when they're the two people you love the most. Then came the birthday party. Jason turned 30 and I threw him a huge celebration. Catered food, string lights in the backyard, his closest friends, everything he loved. Lily wore a red dress that clung to her like it was painted on. I caught him staring. And this time, something in my stomach twisted. I told myself I was being paranoid. That it was just my imagination. But when I looked through the photos the next day, I saw it. One image that froze my blood. Jason standing next to me, arm around my waist, smiling at the camera. But his eyes weren't on me. They were on Lily. And she was looking right back. It wasn't a sister-in-law smile. It wasn't innocent. That was the beginning of the unraveling. I started noticing more. Their sudden shared inside jokes, how quiet they'd get when I entered a room, how she started wearing perfume, his favorite brand. The one I wore when we first met. I began keeping my distance. Watching. Listening. My home, the one we built together, no longer felt safe. I started sleeping with my back turned to Jason. I avoided Lily. I didn't have proof, not yet. But I had a gut feeling. And it was screaming. Then came that night. Our 5th wedding anniversary. I came home early from a client meeting with a bouquet of white lilies, my wedding bouquet flower, and a bottle of wine. I wanted to surprise him. I was the one who got surprised. The bedroom door was slightly ajar. I heard voices. Low, breathless, intimate. I opened it. My husband. Lily. My sister. Tangled in the sheets of the bed I chose. The bed I built our life on. They didn't see me at first. I stood there frozen, my heart cracking in silence. I should have screamed. I should have cried. But I didn't. Instead, I took a slow breath. And I smiled. Because in that moment, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I closed the door quietly, like I hadn't just witnessed my life implode. My feet moved before my brain did, numb and robotic, straight to the guest bathroom. I locked the door, collapsed onto the cold tiles, and stared at the wall. The image of Jason, my husband, and Lily, my sister, tangled together, flushed and laughing in the aftermath of betrayal. It played on loop like a sick joke. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even break anything. Instead, I whispered to myself, "Oh, so this is who they are." That night, I didn't confront them. I needed clarity more than chaos. I needed truth, not speculation, not suspicion. I needed proof. So I started watching. Recording. Collecting. Over the next few weeks, I became someone I never thought I'd be. A woman hiding behind walls in her own home with a recording app on her phone and a fire in her chest. I installed a motion-activated nanny cam inside the living room air vent. One Lily had complained about being too dusty. I retrieved Jason's old iPad and synced it to his phone's messages using his saved Apple ID. Yes, he used the same password for everything. Idiot. And then it all poured in. Late-night texts. "She's so boring now, isn't she? You look insane in that dress. God, I wish she wasn't home tonight. I can't wait until we can be together for real." Photos. Snaps of them kissing in my kitchen. In my car. Her sitting in his lap, sipping wine I bought, laughing like she hadn't just destroyed the only real family bond we had. And the worst one? A voice note. Jason's voice, low and smug. "She's so clueless. Emma will never see this coming." Oh, but I did. Still, I pretended. Pretended I didn't know. Cooked dinner. Kissed him goodbye before work. Listened to Lily complain about her job while sipping the tea she didn't know I'd stirred with rage. I played my part so well I should have won an Oscar. Because I needed time. But time wasn't on my side. One morning, I overheard a conversation that shifted everything into overdrive. I had just come back from a hardware store run, buying materials for a home office renovation Jason had asked me to manage, when I heard them talking on the patio. Lily's voice. "She's gonna find out, Jason. She's not that stupid." Jason, "Then let her. We've waited long enough. She's been distant anyway. I'll ask for a divorce. I'll tell her we've grown apart. She won't suspect anything. Lily, and the house. Jason, it's in both our names, but once I get her to agree to mediation, she won't fight me. He's too soft. I'll make sure she walks away with nothing." That was it. They weren't just sleeping together. They were plotting to ruin me. To rob me. To erase me from my own life. And they thought I wouldn't fight back. That night, I sat in bed next to Jason as he scrolled through his phone, completely unaware I had heard everything. He leaned over and kissed my cheek, murmured, "Night, babe." I turned off the light and smiled to myself in the dark. You'll regret underestimating me. But the emotional toll was real. I couldn't sleep. My appetite vanished. Every time Lily laughed, it felt like a knife twisted deeper into my gut. I thought about our childhood, how I used to braid her hair before school, how I stayed up with her after her first heartbreak. And now that same girl was in my house, in my bed, in my marriage. I didn't just feel betrayed. I felt erased. But pain has a way of sharpening you. And my pain? It was turning into something cold and calculated. To the outside world, we were still a perfect couple. Lily had even moved out a week after the patio conversation, claiming she'd found a cute little studio downtown. Jason called it progress. I called it positioning. I kept playing the part. Date nights. Family dinners. Even posted an anniversary throwback on social media, just to lull them into comfort. But behind the scenes, I was assembling my arsenal. I reached out to a divorce attorney who specialized in asset tracing and infidelity cases. Quietly transferred ownership of my interior design business to a separate LLC with a different name. Froze the joint account temporarily under a fraud alert I accidentally triggered at the bank, just to see what Jason would do. He was pissed, of course. "Why are you messing with the accounts?" "It was just a glitch," I said sweetly. "Tech issues. I'll fix it tomorrow." I also did something that still makes me smile. I sent Lily an anonymous email with screenshots of her and Jason's text threads, and watched her spiral in panic. I knew she'd show him. I knew he'd change his passwords, wipe his phone, panic. But I already had what I needed. They thought someone else had discovered their affair. They had no idea it was me. The best part? Jason still came home every night. Still kissed me like nothing was wrong. Still whispered lies into my ear, while planning a life with the woman who used to call me her role model. They thought they were 2 steps ahead. But they didn't realize they were already in checkmate. Here's the thing about betrayal. It makes you want to burn everything down. But I didn't want fire. I wanted precision. Quiet devastation. The kind of revenge that doesn't scream, it whispers, until it's the only sound they hear. I had everything I needed. Heavy checkmark screenshots of texts. Heavy checkmark video evidence from the nanny cam. Heavy checkmark audio recordings from that patio conversation. Heavy checkmark a top-tier divorce attorney with shark instincts. Heavy checkmark in months of pretending to be the clueless, docile wife. But I wanted more than a clean break. I wanted to take everything. Step 1. The financial setup. While Jason was planning his shiny new future with my sister, I was quietly gutting the foundation of his empire. I worked with my attorney to identify every shared asset. Our house, cars, business investments, retirement accounts. Jason had foolishly placed most of his real estate ventures under our joint marital trust. Why? For tax benefits. That meant half of it was legally mine. But I wasn't settling for half. I formed a shell company, a design consultancy, through a friend of mine who owed me a favor. Jason's firm ended up hiring us to renovate several properties, funneling thousands of dollars into my company. He thought he was doing me a favor. In reality, I was draining cash out of his business into mine, legally, paper trail proof. He signed every contract without reading the fine print. That's what happens when you underestimate your wife. Meanwhile, I was liquidating my share of anything with joint ownership. Slowly, methodically. Real estate shares? Sold. Mutual funds? Cashed out. I even took out a short-term loan on one of the properties we co-owned without telling him, using a clause he forgot existed. That loan went into a secure trust under my name. He didn't notice. Too busy texting Lily. Step 2. The emotional setup. Next, I needed the public mask to stay perfectly in place until I dropped the hammer. I kept up appearances. I planned a weekend getaway for us, a cabin retreat, to reconnect. Jason agreed instantly, probably thinking he could use it as a soft launch for his divorce speech. I used the weekend to install spyware on his laptop. By Sunday, I had access to everything: his emails, calendar, and his private notes. I found the draft of the message he was going to send me. "Emma, this isn't working anymore. I felt disconnected for a long time. This isn't your fault." He was going to leave me gently. Like I was some fragile thing. I printed it. Framed it. Put it in my lawyer's evidence binder. Step 3. The bait and switch. Now I needed them to feel safe. So I started acting withdrawn, just enough to give Jason what he wanted. Emotional distance. I stopped cooking. Slept in the guest room. Canceled dinner plans. He thought I was slipping away on my own. That I was giving up. He started bringing Lily around more. "She's just visiting," he told me once. "Checking on me while you're so off." I said nothing. Just smiled. Then I sent Lily a fake message. posing as a realtor offering a luxurious private condo for elite couples looking to start fresh. It was a trap. She responded immediately. Gave her full name, her phone number, her interest in scheduling a viewing. The whole conversation got printed and filed under evidence. Premeditation of adultery plus planning cohabitation. Then came the final bait, our house. I told Jason I was considering moving back closer to my parents. Maybe it's best if I just step away. You can have the house, I said softly. He looked stunned. Relieved. That might be for the best. 2 days later, I had him sign a temporary property transfer agreement, under the guise of refinancing. He signed it. Didn't even read it. That single signature gave me sole control of the deed. Temporarily, yes, but long enough to do what came next. Step 4. Public execution. I waited until Friday. Lily's birthday. They were throwing a private dinner at some overpriced rooftop lounge, celebrating in secret. Jason had told me he'd be working late. I told him I'd be out of town. Perfect. I walked into the lounge dressed to kill. Literally. My attorney, a private investigator, and my best friend, also a blogger with a huge online following, were already there. We had a private table. Close enough to watch but not be seen. Then I sent the first email. To Jason. Subject: read before dessert. Attached were the deed transfer documents, the lawsuit notification, the full folder of evidence. A personal note: you plan to take everything. Too bad I got there first. He opened it mid-toast. I watched his face fall, like someone pulled the oxygen out of the room. Lily peeked over his shoulder and went pale. She turned to look around, frantic. She knew I was there. I stood up, walked across the lounge, placed a manila envelope in front of them. You might want to get separate lawyers. And I walked out. Step 5. The fallout. Jason tried to call. Lily tried to text. My parents called crying. My aunt sent a Bible quote. I blocked them all. The lawsuit went public. My attorney made sure of it. It wasn't just a divorce. It was a full-blown exposure of deceit, fraud, and infidelity. The nanny cam footage? Sent to his investors. The text screenshots? Posted anonymously to a viral relationship blog. That condo offer Lily responded to? Included in the ethics complaint I filed with her new employer. Jason lost 3 of his biggest clients within a week. His firm started bleeding money. Lily was fired. The media whisper chain did the rest. I didn't just take him to court. I took his reputation, his money, his comfort, and his illusion of power. I was never violent. I didn't scream. I didn't slash tires or burn photos. But I did exactly what they never expected. I watched. I waited. And then I took everything. The courtroom was colder than I expected. Not the temperature, the energy. Jason sat across from me, freshly shaved in a suit I'd bought him. But his face. Pale. Eyes twitching. Knees bouncing under the table. I don't think he'd slept in days. He looked like a man trying to pretend he still had control. He didn't. The judge barely needed an hour to review the evidence. The affair, the financial misrepresentation, the emotional damages. It was all laid out cleanly. Professionally. I'd made sure of that. Jason's lawyer stammered through his objections, tried to argue that the affair had no impact on the financial agreement. But my lawyer? A woman with a voice like steel and the patience of a sniper? She tore that argument apart like tissue paper. Your Honor, she said, holding up the signed property transfer form. Mr. Rivers willingly signed over the deed under the assumption that his wife was unaware of his affair. We have reason to believe he did so with the intent to deceive and defraud her of marital assets. But as we've shown, Mrs. Rivers was far more aware and prepared than he realized. Jason's mouth opened but no words came out. And then the judge ruled. I got full ownership of the house. 70% of the marital assets. Jason's firm forced to compensate my company for breach of contract. All legal fees covered by him. Jason got humiliation, debt, and a record of adultery tied to the court proceedings. But that wasn't the real victory. No, that came after. The real fallout. The media didn't swarm like in the movies, but the whispers were loud enough. A few local outlets picked up the story of a real estate developer caught in scandalous affair with sister-in-law. A relationship gossip account leaked excerpts from their texts. My friend, the blogger, ran a sanitized but unmistakably detailed exposé. Jason's business partners pulled out. Clients ghosted him. He had to sell his company just to stay afloat, and even then he only got pennies on the dollar. Lily. She tried to move in with him. It lasted 3 weeks. The tension of public scrutiny, joblessness, and watching him spiral under pressure? It broke her. She moved back in with my parents, who couldn't even look her in the eye. One night I got a voicemail from Jason. Just breathing then. I made a mistake. I should've. I don't know what I was thinking. I didn't expect you to turn cold. I didn't expect you to win. I didn't call back. Why would I? I'd already moved into a new apartment by the beach. Decorated it from scratch. My taste this time, not his muted minimalism. My business was thriving and I had peace. Not just the absence of chaos, but the real kind. The kind that lets you sleep, smile, breathe. People ask me if I ever regret it. If I miss him. If I feel guilty about how thoroughly I destroyed him. And the truth? Well, not even a little. Because I didn't just do it for revenge. I did it for every woman who's ever been told to be the bigger person. For every wife who's been blindsided. For every sister who's been betrayed. I didn't just take everything from him. I took myself back. And I'm never giving that up again. Some people hear my story and say, "Wow, that's brutal." Or, "Wasn't that a little much?" But they weren't there at 2 a.m. when I lay awake wondering what I'd done wrong. They didn't hear my sister's laugh echoing down the hall after I'd gone to bed. They didn't sit across from a man they'd loved for 8 years and wonder how he could lie so effortlessly, so often, with so little remorse. No one talks about how quiet betrayal can be. It's not always loud. Sometimes it creeps in wearing familiar faces. It calls you babe and says, "I'll be home late." It sits at your dinner table smiling politely. Until one day you realize you've been living in someone else's lie. But here's the thing. I didn't let that lie define me. I turned it into fuel. Not for anger, but for clarity. I built something from the ashes. Not just revenge. Resilience. No. I'm not someone's wife. I'm not someone's sister. I'm me. A woman who walked through the fire and came out holding the matchbook. So if you're watching this and you've ever been betrayed by a partner, a friend, a family member, let me tell you something. You don't have to burn everything down in rage. Sometimes the best revenge is making them watch you rise, while they drown in what they thought they could keep. If this story hit a nerve, if you've ever had to rebuild from betrayal, drop a fire in the comments. Share your story. Or just say, "I see you." And if you want more real, raw stories like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Because sometimes the truth isn't pretty. But damn, it's powerful.